Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are stripping things back, way, way back. We're tackling a concept that feels so incredibly obvious that you probably haven't thought about it since grade school.
Oh, absolutely.
But the moment you actually try to, pin it down with a strict definition, it just turns into smoke. We are diving into the living world.
It is deceptive, isn't it? We all think we know what life is.
Of course.
You see a dog running, it's alive. You see a rock, well, it's not. But biologically speaking, drawing a hard line in the sand is surprisingly difficult.
And it's not just difficult because of the definitions, it's the sheer scale of what we're talking about. I was looking at the numbers in our sources, and frankly, they're just overwhelming.
What did you find?
Scientists have described and named somewhere between 1.7 and 1.8 million species.
And that's just the roster we have right now. That number is in constant flux. We're finding new organisms
Right, a single day.
every day. And we're also realizing that some things we thought were the same species are actually totally different. It just highlights how massive Earth's biodiversity really is.
The source text makes this really cool point about this right at the start, about how early humans dealt with all this.
Before the textbooks and microscopes.
Right. We didn't just catalog things. We were, terrified of them. We worshiped them.
It's the awe factor. Early humans could distinguish between inanimate matter and living organisms to a degree.
For survival, mostly.
Mostly for survival, exactly.
Yeah.
But the line got really blurry with things that had power. Think about the wind, the sea, or fire.
Right. Fire moves, it consumes fuel, it grows. If you don't know about oxidation reactions, fire looks a lot like a living beast.
Exactly. So they deified those things. They gave them a spirit because they possessed qualities, movement, power, consumption that looked an awful lot like life.
Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive. We need to stop acting like philosophers for a bit and start acting like technicians. The text is very clear on this.
We aren't answering what is the purpose of life. We are answering the technical question. What makes something living?
We need a checklist, a scientific checklist that separates a bacteria from a boulder with 0 gray areas.
Okay, so let's test that intuition.
Mm-hmm.
If I ask someone on the street what makes something alive, the first thing they'd probably say is growth. Living things get bigger.
That's the most common answer. But let's poke some holes in it.
Go for it.
If getting bigger is your definition, then I have to argue that a sand dune is alive.
A sand dune. I guess it gets bigger if the wind blows more sand onto it.
Precisely. Mountains grow, boulders grow by accumulation. Even a dead piece of wood can swell up and grow if it soaks up water. So non-living objects can and do increase in mass.
Okay, but that feels like it feels like a technicality, right? A sand dune grows because stuff is piling on top of it. I grow because my body is building new material from the inside.
You've hit the nail on the head. That is the scientific distinction.
The key. Yes. In living organisms, growth is intrinsic. It's from the inside. It's an increase in mass and cell number. In non-living things, it's all extrinsic, just accumulation on the surface.
So because that ambiguity exists, because a mountain can technically grow, we can't use growth as the single defining property of life.
Nope. It's a characteristic, but not the definition. It's not an exclusive club.
Okay, so growth is out. What about reproduction? That feels like a much safer bet. A rock is never going to have a baby rock.
True. Non-living objects absolutely do not reproduce.
Yeah.
But does every living thing reproduce?
I want to say yes. If they didn't, the species would have vanished.
The species reproduces, yes. But think about the individual. Think about a mule.
The mule.
Yeah.
Right, that's a hybrid, isn't it?
The offspring of a male donkey and a female horse. Biologically, it's a fascinating creature, but it is sterile. A mule cannot reproduce.
But a mule is definitely alive. It kicks, it eats, it breathes, all of it.
Exactly. Or look at the insect world. Worker bees. They spend their entire existence working for the hive, but they're sterile females. They never reproduce.
And obviously, there are human couples who are infertile. We would never argue they aren't living.
So you see, reproduction hits a snag. It is a massive central part of life. But because there are living organisms that don't reproduce, we can't use it as the all-encompassing definition.
It's getting harder to pin this down than I thought. The sources also had this weird note about single-celled organisms, where growth and reproduction are kind of the same thing.
Right, with things like amoeba or bacteria. If a single cell divides, well, the population is just reproduced, from 1 to 2.
But the organism also grew because the cell number increased.
Exactly. For them, growth and reproduction are synonymous. It blurs the lines even more.
Okay, so growth and reproduction are features, but they are not the definitive proof of life. We need something that has no exceptions.
For that, we have to go under the hood. We have to look at the engine, the chemistry. We look at metabolism, the sum total of all the chemical reactions occurring in the body. Whether you are a blue whale or a microscopic bacteria, you are a chemical factory. You are constantly converting energy.
And no non-living object does that.
None.
But wait, I have to play devil's advocate here based on the notes. What about in vitro reactions? We can take enzymes out of a cell, put them in a test tube, and make a reaction happen. Is that test tube alive?
And that is the crucial nuance. The reaction in the test tube is absolutely a living reaction. It's biologically active chemistry. But the test tube itself, no, it is not a living thing.
So metabolism is the defining feature, but it needs a container.
Exactly. Which brings us to the next defining property, cellular organization. The body has to be made of cells. That is the structure that houses the metabolism.
Okay, so we have metabolism and cellular organization. Those are the deal breakers.
And there is one more. The ability to sense the world. Consciousness or responsiveness.
This one feels like it could get philosophical, but the text keeps it pretty grounded. It's just about responding to stimuli.
Right. It's not about writing poetry or pondering existence. It's about sensing the environment. Plants do this. They grow toward light.
Photoperiodism.
Yep. Bacteria do this. They move away from toxins. All organisms, from the simplest prokaryote to the most complex eukaryote, are aware of their surroundings.
And we humans are just the weirdos who are aware that we're aware.
Self-consciousness. Yes, that appears to be unique to us. But basic responsiveness, that is a defining property of all life.
So we've solved the first half of the puzzle. To be alive, you need metabolism, cellular organization, and responsiveness. Growth and reproduction are bonus features.
So that is the scientific consensus.
But now we have a bigger problem. We have 1.8 million things that fit that description. If we just threw them all in a pile, we'd never find anything. We need a filing system.
We need taxonomy.
Yeah.
And honestly, you can't talk about organizing life without talking about Ernst Mayr.
The Darwin of the 20th century.
A giant in the field. He lived to be 100 years old. He really shifted the whole game. Before him, classification was often just, this looks like that. Mayr helped solidify the biological species concept, grouping things not just by shape, but by their ability to breed and, crucially, their evolutionary history.
So let's walk through this process. The text breaks taxonomy down into 4 pillars. Let's say I'm trekking through the Amazon and I find a weird beetle, never seen it before. What am I actually doing to classify it?
Okay, so step 1 is characterization.
I describe it.
You describe it. You look at its external structure, its internal anatomy, the structure of its cells. You're building a complete profile.
Got it. I know it has 6 legs, a hard shell, specific antenna. What's next?
Step 2 is identification. You take that profile and you compare it to the existing library of life. You check the manuals, the databases. Does this description match anything we've already named?
Let's assume it doesn't. It's brand new.
Then you move to classification. You have to find a place for it in the system. Is it a type of beetle? A weevil? You group it into a category, a taxon, based on those observable characters.
And finally, the moment of glory. Nomenclature.
You get to name it.
I get to name it.
You do, but you can't just call it the cool beetle. You have to follow the rules of systematics.
The text mentions that word systematics comes from the Latin systema, right? Systematic arrangement. But it's more than just filing.
It is. Modern systematics includes phylogeny, the evolutionary relationships. We don't just want to know what drawer the beetle goes in. We want to know who its ancestors were and who its cousins are.
And speaking of naming, this is where things usually fall apart in the real world. Local names are a nightmare for science.
A complete nightmare.
I mean, think about it. I say dog. A person in Germany says Hund. Someone in India might say Kuta. And in some places, the same local name refers to 2 totally different animals.
It creates total chaos. Science is global. If a researcher in Brazil writes a paper about a plant, a researcher in China needs to know exactly which plant they mean. You can't build a global database on local slang.
So, enter Carolus Linnaeus, the man who standardized the chaos.
With his famous book, Systema Naturae, he gave us binomial nomenclature.
Which is just a fancy way of saying 2 names.
Exactly. Every organism gets a 2-part ID card. The generic name, its genus, and the specific epithet, its species.
Okay, I want to drill into the rules here because they are weirdly specific. It feels like a secret code.
It kind of is.
First rule, The language. It has to be Latin. Why Latin? Nobody speaks Latin anymore.
That's exactly why we use it. It's a dead language.
Right.
It doesn't evolve.
Yeah.
If we used English, words change meaning every 10 years. Latin is stable. It's frozen in time.
And the formatting.
If you see it in print, it's always in italics. That's the signal that this is a scientific name.
Mm.
If you write it by hand, you underline the two words separately.
Let's look at the structure. Always two words.
First word is the genus, starting with a capital letter. Second word is the species, starting with a small letter. Always.
Okay, let's run through the examples from the sources to make this stick. The mango.
Mangifera indica.
So Mangifera is the genus. Indica is the species.
And indica gives you a hint. It was originally found in India.
What about the housefly buzzing around my kitchen?
Musca domestica. Musca is the fly. Domestica means, well, domestic, of the house.
And wheat. A major crop.
Triticum estivum.
I noticed in the text sometimes there is a little tag at the end, like Mangifera indica Linn. What's that?
That is the author citation. Linn is short for Linnaeus. It's a credit line. It tells us that Linnaeus was the first person to formally describe this species.
So he basically signed his work. I found this.
He did. And considering he named thousands of species, his signature is everywhere.
Okay, so we have the name, but a name is just a label. We need to know how these things relate to each other. We need the hierarchy.
The taxonomic hierarchy.
This part always felt like a laundry list to me in school. Kingdom, phylum, class. I could never really visualize it.
Think of it like a zoom lens on a camera.
Okay, I'm listening.
At the widest setting, the wide angle, you see everything. As you zoom in, you see fewer things, but the things you do see look more and more alike.
Okay, let's test this. Let's use a tiger. Panthera tigris.
Perfect. So let's start at the very bottom, fully zoomed in. The species, Panthera tigris. It's a specific group. They can interbreed. They are tigers, period.
Now zoom out one click.
Genus. We are now at genus Panthera. This group includes the tiger, but now the lion, Panthera leo, and the leopard, Panthera pardus, enter the frame.
So they're all different species, but they are all Panthera.
Right. They share a skull structure. They can all roar.
But my house cat is missing. It purrs. It doesn't roar.
Right. Your cat is in the genus Felis.
Hmm.
But let's zoom out again. The next rank is family.
This would be family Felidae.
And now your house cat joins the party. The family Felidae includes the roaring cats, Pananthera, and the purring cats, Felis. They all share that cat body plan. Retractable claws, whiskers, carnivorous teeth.
But my dog is still sitting outside.
Correct. Dogs are in the family Canidae. But zoom out again. Order.
Order carnivore.
And now the dog, Canidae, and the cat, Felidae, are in the same frame. Why? Because they are both adapted to eat meat. They have specific teeth, canines, and carnassials for tearing flesh.
Okay, zoom out again.
Class. Class Mammalia. Now we lose the strict meat eater requirement. Now the frame includes monkeys, humans, rats, tigers, dogs.
What connects us all in this class?
Milk. We all have mammary glands to feed our young. We all have hair or fur. We all have external ears.
Zoom out again.
Phylum. Phylum Chordata. This is a massive jump. Now we have fish, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and mammals all in the shot.
What on earth do I have in common with a goldfish?
A notochord. A hollow dorsal nerve cord, basically the fundamental blueprint for a spine and a nervous system.
And finally, the widest possible setting.
Kingdom. Kingdom Animalia. You aren't a plant. You aren't a fungus. You are an animal.
It's actually really elegant when you tell it like a story. It's not just categories, it's a map of relationships. You can see exactly where the dog and the cat went their separate ways on the evolutionary tree.
Exactly. The lower you go toward species, the more characteristics they share. The higher you go toward kingdom, the more general it gets.
And this works for plants too, right? Same idea.
Same system. We just tend to use the word division instead of phylum.
The notes mention the order Polymoniales.
Right. So that order groups together plant families like Solanaceae.
The nightshades, potatoes, tomatoes.
Exactly. And the family Convolvulaceae, the morning glories.
Wait, potatoes and morning glory flowers are cousins?
Distant cousins, yes.
Yes.
They're grouped into the same order based on their floral characters, the shape and structure of their flowers.
So what does this all mean for the listener? We've gone from what is life to how do we file it away? Why does it matter if a potato is a solanum?
Because without this system, we are flying blind. Biodiversity is essentially the library of life on Earth. If we didn't have this filing system, we couldn't communicate. We couldn't identify which species are endangered.
We couldn't find wild relatives of wheat to help breed disease-resistant crops.
That's precisely. It's the infrastructure of all biological science. It turns a chaotic jungle into a searchable database.
And here's the thought I want to leave everyone with. We started with that number, 1.8 million species described. But the text hints that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, absolutely. Estimates for the total number of species range from 5 million to over 30 million. We have barely scratched the surface.
The source text opens with that heavy philosophical question, what is the purpose of life? And then it immediately pivots to science.
Right. It says something like, as scientists, we shall not attempt answering the second question.
But it makes you wonder, if we have only identified a fraction of the species on Earth, how much of the function or purpose of the biological world is completely invisible to us? We're trying to understand how the machine works, but we haven't even found half the parts yet.
That is a humbling thought. We are building a classification system for a puzzle where you don't even know how many pieces are in the box.
Something to chew on next time you look at your pet and wonder,
Huh.
are you Canidae or Felidae?
Or if you have a really weird pet, maybe something else entirely.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the living world. We'll catch you on the next one.